So Nick, let's talk Rangers and Lightning. We're looking at game five now. Rangers, they win the first two of the series. Lightning looked all out of sorts coming off the 9-day layoff. They get back home. They rattle off two impressive wins in a row. Tampa now minus 125 in game five. Rangers plus 105. For the series line, Tampa's minus 155. So despite having to win or two out of the three possible games taking place at Madison Square Garden, the Lightning still are a decent favorite here after the two impressive wins. There's some injury stuff we got to talk about. There's some other stuff we should get into, but let's just talk right now about game five and the line. The Lightning were minus 125 in game one, minus 130 in game two. So it really isn't that surprising that we're going to see this line open Tampa minus 125 for game five. But I do have a feeling we're going to see some money come in on the Lightning, considering the performances they just had, and now that the Rangers are dealing with some injuries.
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely lean towards the Lightning, and I can see how I think that's the sharper side. Admittedly, I've been burned with the Rangers' ridiculous home and road splits this postseason. I've had a bit of a hard time accepting that they're just this much better at MSG. But I do think we could see in the first two games that there was kind of some miscues that we wouldn't typically see from this Tampa team. And I think once those were cleaned up, like we've just seen Vasilevsky dominate the last two, and it's helped so much. I was kind of laughing hearing all the takes that Vasilevsky had supposedly been solved and all the goals high blocker. And I really just thought like a big part of it was, if you reviewed, and credit to New York, like they generated a ton of high quality chances in those two games in MSG. But I was really confident that he would bounce back once he was given the right play in front of him and not just goals he was never supposed to save to begin with. And I think we've seen exactly that. And then, yeah, obviously we'll touch on the injury stuff, but if the kid line's going to be broken up, that's clearly been a huge game changer for the Rangers. And that kind of leaves them with just the one line you're really worried about breaking through with offense.
Yeah, so those injuries are Ryan Strome. He missed most of game three, or at least the second half of game three, and then all of game four with an injury. They won't say what it is, but we can all kind of suspect that it was something with his leg that he took. It was like a weird freak no contact kind of injury. And then he took warm-ups, and Gerard Gallant kept saying that, you can't believe anything coaches say at this point of the year, but he kept saying that he thought Strome was going to play. But he was deemed not fit enough to play after warmups. And then midway through game four, you have Filipino, the center of that kid line with Capo Caco and Alexis Lafreniere. He gets hurt. So this is why like the playoffs are so interesting. Filipino being out in a regular season game, you and I wouldn't spend more than 30 seconds thinking about it. And like when we're handicapping, if it was Rangers versus Sabres or Rangers versus like Dallas Stars on like a Tuesday night. But in this situation, it matters was because of the way that the matchup works out and the fact you're playing the same team over and over and over again, right? So if he's out, like you said, it breaks up everything. And if Strome is out, or if Strome is even dinged up, you're now talking about your second and third line center at the very least playing less than, near 100%. So those are two big injuries to keep an eye on, especially if they compound, right? Like one injury is one thing, but when you have the injury luck that ends up clustering, which by the way, the Rangers have had tremendous injury luck throughout this entire playoffs. I think tonight was the first game since game 4 of the Penguins series where they were missing a player from their top 11, top 6 forwards, top 4 defensemen, or starting goalie. And they've played every team that they've played from game 1 of round 1 through tonight. And including tonight, the other team has been missing at least one. And so it's not like, the Rangers have been really unlucky with injuries. This is their first kind of injury crisis of the postseason. I do think that there's a chance though that this Lightning line maybe gets out of control based off of that stuff, right? Like I said, minus 130 in game 2. That was coming off of a bad performance in game 1 where everyone expected, okay, they'll bounce back. They clearly hadn't found their game yet. And at some point in the middle of the second period of game 2, they started to look more like the Lightning. So if this line gets too much higher, past that 130, I think minus 140 is, you're really pushing it with the Lightning price at that point. And then you'd have to start looking towards the Rangers, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Especially because we know like it's going to take a ton to break through on Shesterkin. And unless the Rangers really allow a lot of those complete breakdowns where the Lightning are just always going to score the goal, I don't really I don't think I'd see a lot of value in that. I think one play that is going to continue to hold merit, I've been pretty firm on the storyline all series long that the under 5.5 would be a good play. And I think the under in that game should still remain a really strong play. I think it's just at a point where we're both seeing both teams really sharpen up defensively. Obviously, both goalies are in elite form. And I think it's just, for a lot of reasons, going to be hard for that one to break open. And especially because I don't think we'll see Tampa manage those kinds of mistakes they made the first two times in MSG. So if they're going to play better and not allow a big total, I think we know New York will lock it down. They'll find a way to hang around. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can hit on the under again.
And it hasn't hit yet, but sports books have been dealing, will the game go to overtime or the draw, 60-minute draw at like plus 320, plus 330, and it should keep, incrementally going up since we haven't seen an overtime game yet. I do think that holds value too, because you're talking about two teams that shouldn't run away with a game. I think what we saw tonight from Tampa Bay is basically the extent of what a running away with a game in the series would look like from now on. Because like you said, both teams are in good defensive form. Both goalies are on. And it's just, you wouldn't expect Tampa to make those kind of mistakes again. So I do like that as well. I think targeting that, if John Cooper keeps that first line together, the Palat, Stamkos, Kucherov line that he reunited after games 1 and 2, those three guys are very live in terms of player props as well, because they're just generating opportunities. Palat's been terrific the past 2 games. Kucherov's been terrific. So it could be Stamkos at this point for game 5, because he'll probably be the one with the most value, since he's been a little bit quieter than his colleagues there.